welcome to the Zoom meeting, everybody. Just watching you popping up in this Hollywood square of a Zoom screen is just very gratifying because I think I've been missing all of you guys, and it's definitely your students and the kind of a physical PacBay community. So today, I'll take this. I'll take this over nothing. And so it's very, very gratifying and happy to see all of you. What a blessing it is that we're in this together. I want to share with you the plan, and I want to start out just simply by calling this a collective resilience, an adapted approach to schooling amidst the COVID-19. We select these words very carefully, collective resilience. It happens that my doctoral research, I spent 7 years in the rural areas in the remote parts of Nepal during the war and also post the Civil War, try to study how some of the most under-resourced, marginalized people survive, and not only survive, but thrive. I was able to study a little bit about it, well, actually deeply, a lot and deeply about resilience. And more so than ever now, is the question of how can we help our students to be resilient during this time. The other day, my wife and I took our two little ones, 2 kids out into the neighborhood and just walking around, taking a walk. And all of a sudden, this heaviness that I felt by looking at my 2 kids and said, wow, this is going to affect them a lot. My 2 kids, they really enjoy each other, so they're not missing necessarily the socialization. Maybe to some degrees they do miss that. But I felt like, but then just listening to between the lines in their conversation, the kind of question that they started asking more and more, there's a sense of fear, and there's a sense of sort of this threat that's out there. And I thought that, wow, that's such a different way of growing up than I used to. And this is their reality, and the world that they inhabit, the world that we inhabit, but they're going to continue to carry on even further, many more years than we do. The question is, how do we pass on that sense of resilience? Can you go to the next slide, please? And then I just want to start with a verse from the scripture. Philippians 2, chapter 2, verse 3 says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, rather in humility value others above yourself." In fact, that was in the context where Paul says, "Hey, if you have any encouragement from me, then it's to be united in Christ and comfort in His love and fellowship with the Spirit. If any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and purpose." And I think this is where it's important we talk about not only resilience, but it's not just individual resilience. It's how can we do this together? This is a time that we take leadership. I take leadership amongst the educators at PacBay. We as adults take leadership in supporting and leading our young people. They take our cues. If we are freaking out, if we are impatient, if we are frustrated about everything and we show them, they take our cues. Question is, before we can help them develop resilience, are we resilient ourselves? And are we resilient in the way we draw strength from one another? In my study of resilience, it's never outside the context of individual pursuit of strength and success. It's always tethered to a network of people. It's always with others. And so the question here is, how can we come together in one spirit, in one love? How do we give each other more grace, more patience? And by doing so, we set an example of love, of wisdom, of virtue for our students, so that they will have more capacity to deal with the increasingly more challenging world that they inhabit. So I just want to say that as a quick word. I don't want to be preachy about this, but I just want to set it up as our attitude and our approach. So With that said, I just want to acknowledge, please go to the next slide, please. I just want to acknowledge that this plan that we put together is a hard work of many, many people. I want to thank my administrative team. They have worked day in and day out on this thing together. We put this together and worked so hard, and a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of a lot of how would you call it, intense discussion or debate, because because at the end of the day we want the best for our students, and we all have very strong ideas and thoughts and opinions, but at the end of the day we love each other, and we say we're gonna do this together no matter what. I want to thank faculty. I mean, I met with faculty last week. They are just excited about figuring out how to do this for our students. It's hard. They have concerns. They are concerned about their safeties and health. They're concerned about how challenging this is going to be. They were never trained to do this. Nobody's ever trained to do this. I've never been trained to do this. But we all are coming together to make sure that we can do this well. I want to thank our board members, especially the leadership of Mr. Alan Amy. He's personally invested in seeing the school thrive in the midst of pandemic. And so I'm deeply grateful for him. I'm grateful for all of you parents. Good input, great participation, both in the June survey and also July survey. I'm deeply grateful for some of the medical experts amongst you that we called on and asked for input and review and thoughts. And lastly, I am so grateful for your prayers. Without prayers, we just won't be able to do anything. So it is with prayers that we are able to do this together. So I want to organize our presentation with these four major areas. Let's go to the next one. I want to quickly talk about the overall approach. Very early on, when we were out of last school year, we met together and I laid out these 5 general areas to work on for us to work on. Health and safety of our students. We want to make sure that not only do our students get excellent learning experience, but also equitable. Because we know that a lot of times, especially when we are in a distance learning or social distance learning, sometimes resources are not distributed equitably. So we want to make sure that that is the case, at least to the best of our ability to do so. We want to make sure we also focus on social and emotional well-being of our students. That's something that we learned deeply and greatly during the spring. We hear the concerns and the needs of our families, and we know that we recognize that we need to provide structures that allow families, as well as our staff, teachers, the ability to choose. There's some freedoms and flexibilities there to choose what's best for them. And lastly, we need to be adaptable and flexible. And so that's why this approach is approach where we can be flexible. Let's go to the next slide. Before we dig deeper into the specifics, I want to let you know and get a sense that we have done our due diligence. I'm first and foremost full academic and at heart. So every decision I make, I study, and research. And so we had done a lot of reading collectively. We organized as administrators into 4 task force areas. And then we study the health and safety frameworks, whether it's national, locally, or state. And last time I counted, we studied 17 of those. research studies. We've done a lot of these scientific, we read up a lot of scientific research studies on COVID-19, on its transmissions, on comorbidities, on the, and so on, all these things. And plus we talk to medical professionals. So we had done a lot of that as well. And lastly is really about school plans. And we cannot simply just invent things out of thin air, but we also look to other educators. Weekly, I'm part of a cohort of a couple dozen heads of schools in California. We meet weekly. We've been meeting weekly and try to know, and put our heads together on different ideas. We study all these papers and reports, and we had read up the plans from 20 different independent schools in the peninsula, and also 5 public schools districts. And so we've done a lot of hard work, and this is in addition to getting feedback from you, getting feedback from medical professionals, public health professionals. Let's go to the next one. Based on the survey, I want you to see the slight difference here. Back in June, when we asked your comfortability of sending kids to on campus, given that we're able to provide the highest level of risk mitigation, and so on, 60% of you say you're comfortable and extremely comfortable sending kids in person. But when it gets to July, the number is 51. 20% then, back in June, said you're not comfortable at all. 20% right now, the level is 28%. We also asked a little bit about we also asked a question about the late start date. And we get 55.8%. So here's the thing. When we first asked that question, it was assuming to provide us some room to perhaps wait things out a little bit, perhaps that we wait to till we pass the Labor Day weekend, perhaps that situation will improve, and if it's improved, then we can have some sort of a on-campus elements to our learning. But at the moment, as you may already know, back last Friday, governor has made order for those counties who are on the watch list, and so that significantly limits what the school can do. Granted, San Mateo is the only county in the Bay Area that's not on the watch list at the moment. We are watching the condition carefully to see what will happen to that. So anyway, so we're all nice to say that we intend to, at the moment, it seems like there will be some elements of distance learning, and also some in-person, but now we'll let Jim talk about that a little bit later. But always to say, without giving too much away, we will start on August 11th with some modifications. So you will hear in a moment. Next slide, and I'm going to turn this time to Anna.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. So like Dr. Chen said, this screen might bring up in you lots of questions. So what I want for you to do is just to maybe make note of those questions, because you will have an opportunity, like Dr. Chen said, to ask your questions at the end. So just know that as a school, there's been a lot of preparation, lots of preparation, like Dr. Chen mentioned. Not only did we gather information from local and national experts, but also from our very own parents. I'd like to mention that we brought in Dr. Deep Patel. He's a radiation oncologist at Kaiser, South San Francisco, as well as Dr. Karina Kwong, and she's a clinical admin at Stanford Children's Hospital. So we were able to really just work with those two parents and glean information from, like I said, from experts nationally and locally. So as you can see there, like I said, you can save your questions for the end. When we are on campus, we will always at all times need a face covering, whether we are indoors or outdoors. And you might say, wait a minute, but outdoors, it's safer. I might agree with you, yes, but the thing is this, and I noticed this when we had our awesome senior graduation just a few weeks ago, a couple months ago. Although the students were well behaved, it is difficult when you're together. You want to get closer to each other. It's just natural. And so to keep the safety, if at all times students keep a face covering on, it will at least help a little bit any transmission of any droplets. There will be temperature checks. It will only be done in the mornings or when the student comes in, depending when their first period is when they come on campus. So it will be done. If a student starts exhibiting some symptoms, we will take a temperature again, and that student is to go home right away. And we will kind of quarantine them until they're able to get off campus. We will keep the social distance of 6 feet apart. We will encourage often hand washing. We will disinfect and clean in between the classes. We even have directions of where the students will be walking routes to kind of, so there's not too much crossing of people in hallways, no large gatherings. We will also be thinking about our students' screen time. We'll be limiting that passive screen time. We will build in some social interaction, and we're going to be sharing a little bit more about that in a little. And the social and emotional health and learning, a lot of that. And I am excited to, this is screen 7, I believe. So at about screen 16 or 17, I'll be able to share a little bit more about that. So that's it for now. But just know that we've been really putting a lot of effort in on this, and if we're going to err on about anything, it's going to be on the side of safety for your children. So thank you. Next.
All right, so this part is for Mr. Sweeney, so go ahead.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is Jim Sweeney. And I probably should entitle the next few slides "How I Spent My Summer Vacation." This is the plan for reopening PacBay that has really been a group effort of many hours, many discussions, as Dr. Chen has indicated, passionate debates, back and forth adjustments, and we have come ultimately to this plan, which has not only application in the context of this pandemic, but actually has some more generic application. As you may recall, last year in the fall, we suffered closures because of power drain. We had a power drain situation. And then the year before that, we had smoke from wildfires. So we periodically have experienced times when being on campus is either not possible or not safe, not just for pandemic reasons. 2 years ago, it was because our campus was blanketed with very thick, very dangerous high particle smoke. So we've come up with a system that has basically 3 classifications, 3 conditions. Conditions red, yellow, and green. And the conditions are as follows. When it is the presence of students and staff on campus pose a clear and present danger to their health and safety, that would put us into condition red. When we were in shelter in place last spring, we were clearly in condition red. When we had smoke that made our campus unusable for health reasons, we would have been in now what we call condition red. Condition yellow arises when the presence of students and staff on campus pose a potential and material but reasonably manageable risk to their health and safety. So in other words, there is a threat, there is some condition that poses a substantial material risk, but the risk is manageable. In other words, we can take steps to ensure the reasonable health and safety of both staff and students. And then, of course, condition green, which is our normal condition when no such risks beyond those that are ordinary to any school exist. So we have condition red, yellow, and green. Condition red is a situation in which we will go to PacBay online distance learning. That is what we had and experienced last spring. It's 4 days of online learning using our conventional instructional schedule in high school and middle school, as well as for grades 4 and 5. We did make one modification, and that is our flex day will be for middle school and high school on Wednesdays. So on Wednesdays, that will be a flex day, and it will be a day in which there will not be active screen time. In other words, we're going to give our students a break midweek when we are in online learning so that we're not online 4 days in a row for this particular, if we are on prolonged online learning. So you will have 2 days a break, 2 days a break, and so on. That is condition red. Now we're also mindful that as the condition begins to abate, as the threat begins to minimize or reduce, it may not still be completely risk-free. The risk may remain reasonably high, but again, it begins to become manageable. So we are having what we call red conditional, which is a modified version of the red schedule, in which we have our students broken into 3 cohorts: gold, navy, and sky. And I'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. And then when we have this situation on Wednesdays, every other week, the gold and navy contingent will be able to come on campus for curated activities, to give them some time together, to give them some social time, to get them back on campus, to get them back interacting with faculty and staff, but in a very structured, very curated environment that complies strictly to those safety procedures that Mrs. Valadares spoke of just a moment ago. Now, the sky contingent on the bottom, the sky cohort, is a feature that you're going to see not only in this scenario, but in the yellow scenario, and that is this. It is certainly something that we have heard from parents, and we have really taken quite seriously, that we're aware that there's a substantial number of families that simply are not comfortable at this point having their students on campus. They're just not willing to take even that moderated risk, which is completely understandable. And as Christians, we strongly believe that the parents are the primary educators of their children. That is the ancient understanding of the Christian church. So we are going to offer, for those families that feel that anxiety and that don't feel that that is a risk they are comfortable taking, we will continue to allow online learning continually. There will be no on-campus day for those families who elect to place their students in the sky cohort. What happens on Wednesdays? Social activities, curated, not students interacting randomly. We can't do that, obviously, while the risk still exists. Labs, we have laboratory science courses where students need to do their laboratory work. We are configuring we actually have adding an additional science lab on campus to accommodate students being socially distanced in the laboratory. Studio work for our art courses. We have a number of, this year we've actually quite substantially increased our fine arts offerings, which have studio components to them, where students can do work in the studio. We'll have that as well set up for these Wednesdays, so students can come in, again, within the strictures of our social distancing rules, and do their laboratory or their studio work together. We'll also have collective supervised social and distanced activities. Mrs. Valadares will talk later on about our emotional well-being program, something that is new to PacBay this coming year. We'll have sessions where students can socialize in a structured environment, where they can also have well-being sessions where they can talk about the anxieties and frustrations of living in this rather difficult period of uncertainty and of restriction. I think all of us certainly understand the anxieties of being cooped up as adults. One can only imagine how that feels when you're 15 years old. Moving on, condition yellow is when we get to a point where we feel that the risk is now manageable. It is diminished, and this is some schools are calling this hybrid learning. Actually, the red conditional is a form of hybrid learning as well. So we really have two species of it, but this is basically a full-on hybrid learning. Again, we continue with the three cohorts: Gold, Navy, and Sky. Our Sky contingent cohort is all online, as you can see. They remain in online instruction, so parents have that option. For those who are going to come onto campus, we're going to follow what is called 10-4, which is really the result of a lot of research that's been done, not just in the United States, but internationally, that shows that really the safest way to initially administer on-campus education is to have students on campus for 4 days and then allow them some off time over a period of 10 days. Why 10 days? 10 days is, according to the CDC, and now upgraded their quarantine standards, 10 days is the time in which, if the disease is to manifest itself, the virus, it does so generally within 10 days. So if we have students that are infected and may have infected other students, we will have a very limited period of time in which we can trace and we can quarantine and make sure that the safety of all involved is protected. The other thing is, of course, never at any time during this period will more than half the students be on campus. So we know that there will be a significant contingent of online students, but that's going to reduce the number of students coming on campus off the top. And then when we go to the 10-4, that's going to take that number and cut that in half. So we have a very manageable number of students on campus throughout the week. The classrooms can accommodate these size of students in classes easily under the socially distanced principles that we've talked about. We can also manage things like lunch, other activities on campus, maintaining social distancing, because simply stated, we don't have a large number of students to have to actually manage. We can actually focus on a smaller group and make certain that things are safe and sound. And then, of course, we get back to condition green, which is the normal condition that exists as we would normally have school. And then we would go back to flexible Friday, which is what we were doing last year. So we would be back to our normal schedule. Our bell schedule remains the same throughout conditions red, yellow, and green. No changes there. Although we have made a few minor modifications designating Mondays and Tuesdays as Module 1 and Wednesdays and Thursdays as Module 2. So that may affect which dates, which modules are on which particular days, but you'd have advance notice of that prior to the schedule for the upcoming week. That is the red, green, and yellow. For 4th and 5th grades, we are going to stick to the same principle. There will be an optional distance learning system available, but instead on condition red conditional and yellow, elementary students are going to have a little different arrangement. And I don't know, is this Dr. Gross that's going to speak to this, Dr. Chen, or is this?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
Just
very good.
let me set it up real quick. The reason why, one of the reasons why we, for fourth and fifth grade students, will have slightly different sort of approach to it, but nonetheless, it's still a phase-in approach because we want to be careful. We want to not assume that we know how to run hybrid right away. We want to give ourselves some learning on-run time to learn. So we'll begin to phase in, adding more days into the week. The reason why is because generally speaking, as the limited amount of medical understanding that I know, the ACE2 receptor of our body is really where the COVID virus really attack, and that ACE2 receptor is not yet quite fully developed at a younger age, and typically the statistical significance in terms of the tendency to be infected, you go from 0 to 10 years old and then jump to the next level, 10 to 18 years old. So within the sort of general is for the elementary. So for the elementary school, we felt like we more of the in-person time. So now I'm gonna.
You may need to repeat that last.
Oh, did I
you cut out? Yes.
Okay, so we just felt like for this age group, still at the elementary school age, that we're able to provide more in-person opportunities. But given that we will begin to gradually increase if the condition allows. So I'm gonna give Dr. Gross the time to speak a little bit about this.
Hey everybody, good to see you all. What I really want to do is show you some baby bunnies, but Luna's been doing her thing again. But talk to me later if you're ready to adopt. Yeah, we're really looking forward to students hopefully being able to be on campus. Again, we may not have that decision available to us depending on San Mateo County health. But if conditions are as they are today, this is what we would like to do. Again, we provide distance learning for all the families that want that on an ongoing basis. And then for families that are willing to commit to, we haven't written up the commitment statement yet, but we'd like families whose students are on campus to kind of be willing to do teamwork with us and agree to certain safety guidelines, even for the other people in the household. Because of course, if I take a risk in my home and then go to school and I'm with your child, I'm putting your child at risk. Anyway, that kind of goes without saying. It's the nature of highly contagious disease. Again, if it starts tomorrow, we're kind of looking at probably having opposite the middle school, high school schedule, where maybe they are able to have some on campus, limited activities on Wednesday. We're looking at some advantages to that, maybe being the day off for elementary school, for the teachers to really focus on the distance learning cohort to try to do individual work with them. But then Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, again, we're going to give ourselves a couple weeks to make sure we're ready. But we believe Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday for the on-campus cohorts might work really well. But again, as point 3 there, add more days on campus as conditions improve. We'll reserve the right to announce, hey, we're going to try, maybe in the first week of school, we try 1 or 2 days, get our cleaning protocols and our student traffic protocols. How do you even come and go from the playground? How do you do lunchtime? How do you do the restrooms? All of that is a little bit hard to rehearse until the children are here. The virtual days, whether it's just kind of Wednesday or if it's more than those days, will really, like we did last year, teachers will have individual support meetings with families at least weekly. And we generally like moving toward more project work anyway, as opposed to a lot of worksheets and that kind of busy work. And this is an opportunity to really embrace that project work. Sometimes we talk about it as beautiful work or deeper learning. But again, assignments and writing and reading and study that involve multiple steps where a student engages more deeply and thoroughly in really meaningful assignments, and hopefully becomes more self-directed in that and learns some great school skills to be ready for middle school, high school, and then certainly beyond that. One of the things we're able to do this year, because of just having the 2 grades in the elementary building, is that we can actually isolate the 4th grade for the first floor, the 5th grade on the next floor. So we'll probably just go to non-gender restrooms, so 4th graders kind of as needed can go to either of the restrooms on the first floor. We'll sort of have an overflow room on that floor if we need to, for the teacher to have resource materials and those kinds of things, to make as much space as possible in the floor for students to be distanced. We've got some safety equipment coming, some barriers to protect students and kind of keep people separate. And we'll designate some like arrows in the hallway for direction for coming and going, to try to just help the students to keep 6 feet apart. We'll also, the next, I also already mentioned project-based, but we're going to try to do a lot with outside learning. Like, again, this just matches kind of an initiative the school's been pushing the last several years, but this is a great year to push this even more. The best ventilation in the area has got to be Pacifica outside, and oftentimes really comfortable climate conditions. So definitely recommend layers so that we can be versatile. But we have some good places outside for students to learn, and we're working to improve those even today, so that 4th graders can have kind of an outside classroom area and 5th graders can have a different outside classroom area. And this idea of integrative learning, again, where we can, we'll try to design great assignments that are cross-discipline. Social science goes great with biblical studies, and sciences go great with math, and sometimes all those things go well together. We have potential really good art resources, and we want to emphasize utilizing art training in our assignments, and also graphic arts training, so our students can produce really high quality work. And we will continue with enrichment courses. We're not ready to publish that, but getting close, and also some fun enrichment activities outside, some of which the students will be surprised by when they get here. And we're kind of looking forward to surprising them with some things that they haven't been able to do on campus before. So that's the plan. We hope San Mateo stays safe and stays at the level it is and doesn't go on the watch list. The challenge, if we do go on the watch list, is it takes a couple weeks to get off, and then the couple weeks more delay. So the school may not, we'll all be eager to be together, but if the county goes on the watch list, it's essentially a month to get back off and recalibrate the school experience. So we have to be ready to do distance learning really well, but we hope to have as much meaningful on-campus time as possible. So looking forward to seeing you all again.
Thank you, Dr. Gross. And I just want to emphasize, since he mentioned about the watch list, county watch list, when a county is being put on a watch list, the county needs to have 14 consecutive days of cases decline in order to be off the watch list. And once the county is off the watch list, the county needs to wait for 14 more days before their school can have in-person elements. And so that is a significant barrier and significant, but I think it's definitely a significant safety sort of protocol. But nonetheless, it will be a challenge. So I just want to put that out there so that we understand. All right, let's go to the next slide. We're going to try to run through these slides faster, so then we'll get you more time to talk, to ask questions. I want to ask our very own, the Director of Educational Innovation, Mr. Vince Chen, to talk a little bit about the infrastructure to support what we just talked about.
Good evening, everyone. Part of infrastructure, we are looking and really preparing and hoping we can all be back on campus very soon. So some of the changes we're making is around the campus and the classrooms, we're making sure we can observe social distancing within the classrooms, and that teacher can still have space to teach, and the students can interact. We're looking at extra hand washing stations because the number of sinks within a bathroom we felt was unsafe and required students to wait a little too long. So having hand wash stations throughout campus, so the students can wash wherever they are, because hand washing is still the best way to prevent the transmission of COVID-19. We're increasing signage around campus, so the flow of traffic helps reduce students crossing paths with each other. Increasing ventilations in all of our rooms, in the bathrooms too. Increasing and utilizing our outdoor spaces. So that's going to be fun because we have a lot of outdoor space, but the weather can be a little more challenging and not quite as cooperative. So we're trying to figure out how we can do that. And we are increasing the number of times we're cleaning and disinfecting around campus, multiple times throughout the day as students using it, extra cleanings over the weekends, just to make sure everyone can have a safe and clean environment to be in. And then also our exposure protocols, communication plans. So these are important to make sure that everyone is in the know if there's anything that comes up, and the best way we can communicate with the families about different scenarios that may come up. So that will be coming out shortly. As far as technology, and this is one place I'm really excited about, technology and education. And then especially in this time and age, we can jump to the next slide. We're investing, the school is investing into D10 technology. It's still utilizing web or Zoom conferencing, but how do we integrate and keep our online components with our in-class components, make them feel like they're still part of one. So this technology is really cool. I got to see it. It's got an integrated webcam so the students that are online can see everyone in the classroom, and then the people in the classroom, because this is a big basic TV as well, can see the students that are online. So they can still interact and see each other. The audio is super clear. So students talking in the classroom, even up to 60 feet away, can be heard by those online, and it sounds very good. So that way we don't struggle with trying to figure out what's that person saying or whatnot. Another really cool feature is teachers can utilize it as an interactive whiteboard, so they can write on it. They can do a lot of functionality. So students both online and in the classroom get a similar experience, and they all feel like kind of together. So we're getting that into multiple of our classrooms. More of the technical classes will probably use it a little bit more, but that is a really cool technology. Something else that's on here, if you haven't seen the email a couple weeks ago from me about Clever, we're trying to centralize a lot of our online tools. We know that our transition last spring, we're throwing out a lot of different tools out there, and it's hard to keep track of them. So we're trying to centralize it all onto one platform called Clever. So try it out. If you haven't, you can email me and we can get that set up. And then also one more thing for the equity of the students' connectivity. Connectivity, because if you're deciding to stay at home or you're on a cohort that's at home and your internet connection is not strong, the school is investing in and helping connect with hotspots for you to use that with unlimited data for a very low, very low cost. So if you have questions or had internet connectivity problems during the year, or you know you will have some, let me know, send me an email, and I can get you connected with some devices that you can use during the year to make sure that you don't miss out, or your child does not miss out on any online classes. Thank you.
All right, let's go to the next slide. Thank you. Well, I'm excited that I know that some of you probably have some questions about athletics, but here I want to start out by simply saying that our very own Coach Bermudez has been named the high school athletic director, and we're very excited. And he's going to do a phenomenal job, because he has been doing a phenomenal job. Not only leading our basketball team and baseball team, but everything else, and working closely with Mrs. Harris. Mrs. Harris will be the outward-facing athletic leader connecting with the commissioner, the Central Coast Sectional, and CIF. Coach Bermudez will be our athletic director for the high school. So we're very excited about that. So without giving further ado, I will let Coach Bermudez to talk a little bit about athletics.
I definitely want to thank Ms. Ayers. We've been working together now for, wow, I think it's 12 years. And I wouldn't be in this position without her guidance over all these years. And I continue to look forward to working with her this year, as she's still going to have a great role within the athletic department. So thank you to her. So anyway, welcome all of you. I am Coach B, as most people call me. I'm looking forward to this year. To say the least, it's going to be a challenging year for athletics. As you have front page news today after yesterday's announcement, there's a big change planned for California and our section for athletics in high school. So just want to give you a quick update on that. Our normal fall season that would be starting next month, everything has been pushed back to mid-December start dates, and going into 2 seasons of sports instead of 3. With that being said, I want to thank all of those that did do the survey already and give us a pretty good idea of which sports, how many people would be interested in playing sports. So what you see right here for the high school, we definitely are still planning and offering cross country. That's for both girls and boys. There's girls volleyball and boys soccer. And then starting in March, which is the really big change, is where we'll have the basketball, baseball, softball, and track and field all going together. So that's sliding our basketball into that. That's probably the biggest question that everybody will have. And yes, that's going to make some people have to make some decisions. You know, whether you play basketball or softball or baseball or so forth. We can make track and field work with the others, but you will have to make a choice. So I ask that you start to think about that now, as our league will be meeting tomorrow, and we'll have a deadline probably in the next couple of weeks of making commitments for this next year. So look for an email coming out with within the next week or 2 asking for your commitment for this year for which sports you will plan on participating in. So that's going to be very important that you respond to that and kind of giving it a little bit of thought as well. On the middle school side, there's a little bit more time as far as when we'll know exactly which sports will be offered. It's going to follow the same time frame, as far as we won't be starting until December, January timeframe. But more details come with that. We'll be meeting next week. I'll be meeting with them as well next month to try to hash out exactly what we'll be doing. But overall, looking forward to this year and looking forward to having as many opportunities for the students as possible still in the athletic department. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach B. Let's go to the next one. You know, PacBay is blessed with families and parents with different expertise, and we have reached out to Dr. Deep Patel, one of our PacBay parents, and also Dr. Karina Kwon. So the next couple of minutes of each person, I asked them to speak just a little bit about sort of their response and reaction to our plan, and also what might some of the encouragement they have for our community. So Dr. Patel, would you go next?
Great. Well, thank you for letting me speak for a few minutes here, Dr. Chen. Yeah, I appreciate you reaching out to me, you know, for any suggestions I had. I want to start off by saying I'm not a infectious disease expert by any means, but you know, I've done some reading and listening on meetings at Kaiser. I think what you've proposed today sounds really appealing to me. You know, I think, you know, I like the idea that younger kids are going to be, you know, hopefully, if things go as is, that younger kids will be able to be in the classroom more often, because there is less risk and threat from them as opposed to the older kids. So I think that makes sense to me. And, you know, an opportunity for the students to go into the classroom, you know, for those families that feel comfortable, I think is great. So, you know, I mentioned to you, I hadn't heard of the 410 system before, but I read up on it after you sent the email out, and it scientifically it does make sense. So I think I'm just appreciative that you and all the administrative staff have put a lot of thought and effort into this. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Patel. And Dr. Kwong, Karina Kwong, would you take a moment to speak?
Hi, this is Tarina. Thank you, Dr. Chen, and to your team. You've created a very detailed and thorough plan based on your conditions. I know how challenging and difficult this must be. I work in the Division of Pediatrics, and we had to convert our visits overnight, and we're still working through our model, balancing our telehealth and in-person visits. Anna Valadares did a great job on her the slide on health and safety. That's the health and safety portion. A lot of our parents ask us, how do we keep safe? What can we do? And we educate our parents and our children on 3 simple behaviors. And that's the message I really wanted to share tonight with everyone. The 3 W's: washing hands regularly, wearing face covering, and watching your distance. And I think we can do this at school and also while we're out in the community with our families. So I just wanted to pass that along.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for you two for sharing your expertise and encouragement and also being part of the community. Next up, we're going to talk about social, emotional, and academic support. Mrs. Valadares.
Yes. So hi, everyone again. And this is, I think, our last slide. Woohoo! So we're at the end. And I'm really excited about sharing about these individuals here. As you know, not only in my role as Director of Admissions Enrollment, but also my other role is also Associate Dean of Students, and really just being able to serve the students, to work with them. And I'm, almost like the mom of the campus. Are they okay? Because I worked with you to bring them in, and then now that they're here, I want to make sure that everything is going well for your children. So I am so thrilled and excited that although we've had Shelby with us, this will be coming her 5th year with us, really seeing her gifting. So Shelby's position with us now, it's officially, she is the Director of Student Academic Support and Oversight. And I got to tell you folks, this is her gifting. This is what she is amazing at. This is her superpower. She will not let any child fall through the cracks. So I got to tell you, so with everything that is going on with the pandemic, some students actually are doing better, that were struggling while they were here. They're doing okay online, whereas other students who were doing okay are struggling now. And so what Shelby is in her role, she's going to really just make sure that no students fall through the cracks. I'll just share a little bit about her background, then I'm going to give her an opportunity to say a quick hello to you. But Miss Bumgarner graduated from William Jessup University, holds a California single subject teaching credential in English and a master's degree in education from the Dominican University. She's a former missionary and English teacher in Taiwan. She did her master's thesis research on the challenges facing mainland Chinese international students in their first year of study at a California private school. Ms. Bumgarner started the ELD program for our international students here at PacBay 5 years ago, and is deeply committed to the behavioral, social, spiritual, academic success of all students on campus. This year, Ms. Bumgarner will continue to teach English and Literature department and serve our students as a Director of Academic Support and Oversight. So Mrs. Bumgarner, if you are here, if you would want to say a couple words of introduction, and I unmuted you. There you go.
Thank you, Mrs. Valadares. Yeah, I am really honored and really humbled to step into this new position this year in the administration. It's been such a joy to serve the Lord here at PacBay these last 5 years. And I've worked with a lot of students in the past. Well, let's see, this will be my 10th year actually teaching secondary students in the United States. So yeah, I just want to say thank you to the parents just for entrusting your students to us. We're heading into, I think, what's going to be a very unique year. And I've been working with the administration team this summer on the behavioral and social and emotional health task force. So doing a lot of research and trying to figure out what our best practices are. So I really look forward to this new year of supporting the students academically and spiritually and emotionally. So thank you all for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mrs. Bumgarner. And I'm also over the moon thrilled to have with us the T-Landers, Dr. T-Lander and Cynthia T-Lander. And I'll just share a little bit about Dr. Cynthia T-Lander. She will be working with our students because, as you know, yes, their academics is so important. Yes, we want them to have the social interaction while they are here, but as we are seeing some of our students, the whole pandemic situation is affecting our students, their mental health. And some students, it's affecting them in different ways, whether it be depression, anxiety. And because of that, we're just so blessed and thankful to have the T-Landers with us. So Dr. Cynthia T-Lander is also a graduate of Biola. She's a graduate of Biola University's Rosemead School of Psychology and is a licensed clinical psychologist. She graduated with her PhD in 1999 and started teaching as an adjunct professor at Biola's undergraduate psychology department shortly thereafter. She is passionate about integrating psychology with the Christian faith. Her newest interest is studying the ways in which interpersonal relationships impact the neurology and growth of the human brain. She maintains her own private practice in the Central Valley. Dr. T-Lander will also provide counseling services to PacBay students, as well as teach AP psychology. How cool is that? So she's right there. Dr. T-Lander, I'll unmute you if you want to say hello. Oh, I'm not able, there you go.
Okay. Yes, we are thrilled to be participating with PacBay this year. We're very new. My husband you'll meet very soon. He just retired. And so we are very thrilled for the opportunity to serve the Lord with the PacBay students. So I am passionate both about teaching and about meeting the social, emotional, and spiritual needs of your students here at PacBay. And so we want to be a resource both to the teachers and to you as parents. We will be on campus, however that works with the current situation, 2 days a week, but we have emails and we very much want to be available to you to be a help during this time. So we look forward to working with you and your students.
Thank you, Dr. Cynthia T-Lander and Dr. James T-Lander. He will be our Director of Social Emotional Learning and Counseling here at PacBay. Dr. James T-Lander is a licensed clinical psychologist who received his training at Biola University, Rosemead School of Psychology, graduating with his doctorate of psychology in 1994, recently retired from the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. He spent 17 of the past 25 years working with adolescents in the juvenile justice system. He enjoys working with teens and has extensive expertise in forensic issues, in suicide assessment and prevention. In addition to counseling, Dr. T-Lander will plan and present mental health wellness programs for students, staff, and families. Dr. T-Lander will serve as PacBay's Director of Counseling Services and will co-teach AP Psychology. Dr. T-Lander.
Thank you. Yeah, no, we are very much looking forward to joining the team. While my last 25 years have been in corrections in that area, I look forward to returning to my passion working with the population at PacBay and getting to work with some not kids out of the system, so to speak. Right. But we're looking very much forward to that. Kind of my hope is that as we enter into this, just like with the physical needs, we'll be able to take the temperature of PacBay, be able to really find out what the needs are, where the needs are at, both for the youth as well as for the faculty and the families, and to know how we can best meet some of those needs. Happy to put together different trainings, different teachings, help build. I like the term that Dr. Chin used at the beginning of resilience, because that's really what times like this are all about, is building that resilience, not just for the youth, but for us as well, and be able to have that need met. It's much more difficult when it's via Skype or distance learning, but a lot of needs can still be met in that process. And the big part is identifying and being able to help reach out to those that are in need and identifying those kids.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. So again, we are just so thrilled. We're excited because we have a solid, really thinking about everything, all the needs of your children, parents, and how we can best serve them. So we're really thrilled to have the T-Landers on board, as well as Mrs. Bumgarner in her role. So I'd like to add, so for families tomorrow, I know Dr. Chen will be closing, but be looking for an email tomorrow, families. As you know, during the summer months, we usually start emailing you to fill out the forms that we need, new forms filled out for every year. So you're going to get an email with a link to that, as well as for families. If you have not already given us your t-shirt size for your child, because we want to, every year we give you a t-shirt for your child, we're going to want to get that from you, as well as for our high school students to go on there and just to look at your schedule. So be looking for an email coming from the deans with a little bit more information for all families. God bless you. Thank you. Dr. Chen?